the approaches in natural resource management. So specifically, we are looking into what are the theoretical dimensions are being developed while debating over the resource management, and we are looking for the in resource management. While some people are arguing the community management system is a totally failure system, the powers of management should be given to centralized authority. Some people have argued it should be given to private party, and then some people are arguing no, the community can manage the resources, but with certain condition that the community should not be too large. It should be the size should be very small so that they can manage the resources in a very in a proper way. So if you look into this all kind of debate, so then we have discussed about Ostrom's view, then I also the views of Olson, what Olson also told. So if you look into all this aspect, then some of the other thinkers like Whitfogel in 1957 and Stewart in 1949, their recent development, not 80s argument, and or Ostrom and all, they're in 20th century, that is on 2009. And if you look into the all these views, what they told that this large scale irrigation, because specifically the Whitfogel and Stewart, who are working mostly on irrigation issues, they told that the large scale irrigation projects requires centralized coordination and direction of efforts, which in turn lead to the greater political integration. What they were telling that, they are telling that if you are talking about a large scale irrigation projects, a dam where the irrigation projects should be, the irrigation water should be distributed to the farmers, they were telling that here the power should be set that in the hands of a centralized authority, because what they are telling, the local peoples, the community, they are not that much experienced, they're not having that much potentiality, they're not having that much financial capability to manage the resources. So that's why if the power is vested in the hands of centralized authority, the large scale irrigation projects can be well managed. What exactly they are thinking? They think that the management of irrigation water requires high degree of discipline, and that in turn implied the central control and all powerful bureaucracy. So you are telling that centralized the role of centralized authority in large-scale irrigation projects are unavoidable. They're telling that it requires more high degree of discipline knowledge. It requires more bureaucratic approach, which is not possible in the context of giving rights to the local community. Rather, if it is in the hands of centralized authority, then this project can be well managed and well maintained. Because he was much concerned about that the project should be well maintained and also sustained for the long run. The inevitability of the top-down approach questioned by many researchers. There are lots of people who have also questioned this top-down approach, because I have told you in the very beginning that we are discussing about here mostly the possibility and impossibility of collective actions. Means can the common, when governing the commons, means we can give the power to the common man, to the local aids, to the community who can manage the resources, on which we are debating on that. And you see, and the major problem we are facing in the contemporary days, If you look at all this bureaucratic approach, which other people argue, it is not that I am telling my opinion here. So there are some of the thinkers who have mentioned that the top-down approach means the decision is being taken at the central level or the top, and this is being implemented at the grassroots level, which we always tell that the bureaucratic approach or top-down approach is not that much viable and not that much effective in the case of most of the projects. They're telling that instead of top-down approach, we have to adopt the bottom-up approach. Let the people at the grassroots level take the decision. Let the people at the grassroots level discuss or formulate the policy. Their ideas, their thoughts, their mechanism can be intimated to the centralized authority, can be intimated to the top level officials, the bureaucrats, which will formulate the policy. It is not that we can make the policy at the top and try to impose it at the grassroots level. Rather, we can make the policy at a grassroots, and we can take the views and concern the views of people at the grassroots, and which can be informed, which can be translated, which can be transferred to the top level officials or specifically the bureaucrats. The Milan, another prominent social scientist, she told that no clear relationship between the degree of centralization of authority and the size of irrigation system or the number of persons it supports. He was telling that there is no such kind of integrated relationship is there, that for maintaining large-scale irrigation project we need the intervention of centralized authority. What Miller was telling. So you are telling that it is not mandatory, it is not needed. It is not needed that we have to adopt this mechanism through that the always the authorities power is needed here. And he was telling that uh, uh, we have to think about the grassroots level peoples who can manage the resources. Even the League in 1959 argued that although there were large irrigation works in Sri Lanka, there is no evidence that such irrigation works produced in a bureaucratic manner, which was mentioned by Whitfogel. He was giving an example, and from Sri Lanka, the leech was giving, and he was telling that it is not always correct that what Whitfogel has claimed, that the large-scale irrigation projects should be handled by the centralized authority or the bureaucrats at the top level. He was telling that there are lots of evidences which is also well managed at the grassroots levels. When Krishna Kumar in 2002, he emphasized that and decentralization. He was telling any kind of management system, specifically in the context of resource management, should be properly decentralized. The authority, the power should be distributed among all the stakeholders, not that the power should be centered at the top. He said that if you really want a sustainable utilization of the resources, if you really want the sustainable growth of the system, if you want for the sustainable development of the livelihoods, then it is highly essential that the power should be vested in a decentralized mode, through that the sustainable growth in the long run can be realized through optimal utilization of the natural resources, because our thought should be how maximum use of resources we can do. We can develop a strategy very logically, because what I was telling that local institution structures and far better success to information with regard to the individual agents, as well as the ecological and biological specificities of the region concerned. He was telling that we always emphasize more on the ecological and biological specification of the entities living around. He was telling that while we are thinking about any development project, we should give much emphasis on this ecological knowledge, because unless and until we keep more emphasis on this ecological knowledges and this knowledge of the biological specificities of the region, so then it will be very, very difficult to uh, manage the resources in a very proper way. Even the Tang in 1992, he was also speaking about this resource management. He was telling that unless the farmers have the freedom to participate in both governance and management process of their own irrigation system, then they will be about the returns of the efforts. So what he was telling that I can participate once I get the freedom. He was telling that the farmers who are participating in irrigation management, unless and until they are being convinced that the the complete freedom is being given to them in the process of management, so then they cannot participate. Since the late 70s, an increasing number of field studies of user management resource system have suggested that the government management was not the only option. Even the dialer has, in 1994, the dialer has told that it is not that always the government mechanism or the bureaucratic approach is the ultimatum in managing the resources. There are lots of evidences where the community have well managed the resources. So then, if you look into this, all our theoretical debates, starting from Harding to till now, and the how the views of Hardin was in favor of centralized authority, then initial the robot ward also supported, then in course of time it was being highly criticized by Kimber, then Bandana Sive, and then in between we discussed about Olson, Ostrom, Brumley, and then the private schools thoughts, the Damtage and all, how they also looked into that the powers should be vested in the private party, and then how the Brumley and others have criticized that giving the rights to the private party, we are eroding the local institution which is running at the local level since generations, and having the well capability and having the well history of managing the resources. So that's why, and then in the later course of time, we discussed about the Ostrom's, how she gave emphasis on the community management system, then how Wilson was also looking after the collective action in irrigation management. Then we're thinking about the Whitpogate, Lees, Millen, then Krishna Kumar, then Tang, then at the end the Tyler. So from all this discussion, what exactly we found that there are lots of the people who have argued in favor of collective action, in favor of community management. then then lots of people have been criticized the top-down approach, and they have given their views in favor of the bottom-up approach, and they spoke about the decentralization. They spoke about the local communities having the much power to manage the resources, and they've discarded that it is not highly essential to impose the management strategy on the local at the grassroots by the outsider or from the centralized authority. So rather, we should promote the local people. We should involve them in a more effectively, and they have argued that if the local peoples are being involved, if the process is becoming more decentralized, if the process is in the process is being not a bureaucratic process, then the result of the outcome will be more effective and more fruitful. So for which they were telling that we should be more vibrant, we should be more effective, we should work very dynamically so that the resource can be managed very well, and all of them have given much emphasis on how the power should be vested in the local people. So now the question arises, because almost all now we are much convinced that yes, the powers should be given to the local peoples. And accordingly, if you look into our approaches are being keep on change in the course of time, where now you look into the any projects, specifically whether it is rural development project or one development project, or if you look into any kind of resource management. Now, don't speak about other aspects. So let's have a much emphasis on this natural resource management. If you look into all this aspect, now the major emphasis has been given that the local community, and we are keep on speaking since long that the power should be vested at the grassroots level. We are keep on speaking about decentralization. We are keep on speaking about the good governance. But now, if you look in the post 80s, if you look into the most of the policies throughout the globe, including India, we are in any kind of whether it is forest management, whether it is water management, whether it is drinking water, irrigation water, anywhere, what exactly we are doing, we are trying to involve the more and more local peoples. We are always speaking about decentralization. We want to give the power to the grassroots peoples. We have adopted the bottom-up approach. We have gone through the need assessment. We have gone through the micro plan. We have gone for the social audit. All this, we have even gone for the stakeholder analysis. Means everywhere we are to hear the voice of the locals, voice of the grassroots. We are always trying our development approach is becoming day by day more inclusion rather than exclusion, because now also we are speaking about social inclusion and social exclusion and inclusive growth. So means how we can include everybody to, and what exactly we learn from our traditional system of social exclusion, and how we think of including everybody and bring everybody in an inclusion platform and for an inclusive growth of all. And if you look into that, we even in any kind of projects, we are involving the peoples at the grassroots levels. So the question arises from since 80s, we are speak about there are lots allowed around 40 years is gone. We are keep on speaking more on participatory approaches. We are keep on involving the local people. We are so what exactly we learn from this? Are we able to success in our projects? Are all the projects have been sustained? Are we really reached at the desired goal? Are we able to get our desired notes? What exactly for what reason we have implemented the projects? Or there is certain kind of lacuna for which this mechanism, also this participatory mechanism, this community participation, the decentralization, the good governance is being failed. So if it is failed, then why it is failed? And we cannot simply claim that it is failed if we have not reached at the desired goal. What exactly the problem we are facing? Why we have not reached at the desired goal? Even and why? Even if you look at the Indian specifically now, think about Indian tradition. In India, we have a long history of resource management, and we have a long history of community management, whether it is forest, whether it is water management. In all context, if you look into India is having a very beautiful tradition of resource management. But what exactly happening? In most of the cases, you will find that the in the context of resource management in contemporary days, people are not much involved. People are not coming forward to participate. What makes them not to participate? See, if somebody is very spontaneously participating in any festival, and why is not participating in any because you see, if you look into that, suppose somebody is participating in puja festival, somebody is suppose in your street you are doing the Dasara festival. Look into how much people are very smartly they're participating, even they're financially contributing like anything. And on the day of puja, everybody is coming, everybody is contributing both labor or money, whatever is possible in their part, and everybody is very spontaneously coming and taking participate in the celebration. It is not that somebody is compelling you to come where you are celebrating Dasara in your state. Rather, you are coming forward on your own wheels and participate. But the same is happening when it is coming to the resource management in your locality. Why the people are not coming forward? Why people are not participating in that same spirit, in the same spontaneously? So what exactly the demerit, what exactly the contributing to the people that not to participate? So that should be explored, and we have to high time look into the matters that what exactly discouraging the people to not to participate. So and also we have to look into that if that continues, can we sustain the resources? Can we properly manage the resources? Okay, because we have to think about the people's mentality. We have to look into even the history of resource management, because unless and until we understand the history of resource management, and we cannot understand the real issues. Suppose when it is in the case of forest management, why somebody is very spontaneously participating in the forest management, at the same time he is not or she is not participating in the context of water management. So look into that what exactly the lacunas are lying here and there, for which sometimes the people student this sorry the peoples are being misguided, mistrusted, then they are not so much enthused in participating in the irrigation or any kind of natural resource management, whether they are losing their ownership right, whether they are having the apprehension that even if we participate tomorrow, this resource may be taken away from them, whether they are calculating that they are not going to get much profit, whether they are having any fear that what are the necessary I'll participate in the government management, whether the return is very delayed process for which they are not participating, because if they feel that the return is depends upon the other external factor, so then they will not participate. So all these dilemmas are coming up while looking into the participation, and we'll discuss on that what exactly community participation, why people are participating, why people are not participating, what are the various types of community participation. Also, when all this thing aspect we'll discuss, because from our theoretical perspective, we clear that unless and until we involve the local people, then it is quite difficult to manage the resources. Now, our major emphasis will be will be that what exactly the community participation is, what are the various level of community participation, why people are participating, what makes the people to participate. Because you see, you always think about, because I have given an example when a teacher called you to come down for a we have a function, please come down, all of you contribute in the for certain arrangement of this function. Then you are first thinking about, immediately the question is coming to your mind, why should I come to participate? If I won't come, what will the repercussion? What will the cost if I won't come? And what I'll gain if I come? Because the human mentality is always looking the things from a cost benefit analysis, both consciously or unconsciously. We always calculate everything from economic perspective. We never think about the social cost perspective. Rather, we always think about the economic cost perspective. This is very spontaneous. It is not that we never once. But whenever somebody called us, suppose some meetings we ignore, we don't go, then won't go, what exactly I may lose, and if I go, what exactly I will gain. Because suppose you see, I'm a member of so many committees, so many, even outside I'm a member of so many associations and all. But it is not that I'm attending all the meetings every time. Rather, I'm calculating that what exactly, if I won't go, I may not lose anything. So, and wherever I feel that, okay, if I'll because I have to also think my social relationship, because if I won't go, my social relationship will be disturbed. Okay, so that time we go. Suppose you see somebody invited you for a function. So even if COVID period also you are forced to go, because you all think that how close he or she is with your family. That also you are calculating, because I mean, how closeness? Because if somebody is not that much close, you may not much bother, because if you feel that okay, that person is very close to us, if I don't go, they will look for me. And if you simply get an invitation, and if you feel that if okay, if I won't go, does not matter. so then you'll think of not going. So these are the aspects which we discuss, and we can anybody any doubt over this we can discuss now. Anybody anything to speak about this theoretical approach in resource management? Hmm?
So,
Hmm. Tell. No doubt.
Sir,
Okay. Huh.
sir, where we can
Swagata, I didn't get you. Are you
sir,
asking?
sports for studying materials.
I didn't get you properly. What exactly?
Sir, I'm asking if we have any subject where